knew that's what I really wanted to do. So the next day I was back in Caffè Nero. And in fact my friend who he was on holiday in the States rang up, to talk to someone, and I answered the phone and he said, "Pablo, what are you doing there?" And I go, "Well, I'm back." So I'd agreed to help him for a number of weeks, and 18 years later I'm still there. So we had these 5 coffee bars, 35 of us, and then the key point I think to know is that we were a team of 4 really, I think, very different, diverse bunch of people. We had a finance director who came out of Dixon's and the fraud office, which is a great background for a cash business, I can tell you that. We had Jerry, the chairman, who was, his background was banking, always useful to have a banker around because we kept running out of money. There was myself with this sort of strange background, but passionate about food, and with a reason, an MBA, so I had some skills there. And we had one guy who actually knew what he was doing. When we bought these 5 coffee bars, he was the operations director, great title for running 5 coffee bars, and he came with the 5 coffee bars. And he was the operations director then for Caffè Nero, and that was it. That was the 4 of us, and then a bunch of baristas. And the beauty of that is that 3 of the 4, we had no idea what we were doing at all, and we just made it up as we went along. But we knew what we wanted. We had a very clear vision of this sort of continental coffee house, which had great coffee, Italian-style food, but good food. And remember, 18 years ago, good food in London wasn't easy to get. And we were trying to create this coffee house atmosphere where people wanted to come to. It wasn't a horrible cafe with formica tables. We always had a design concept. We brought in some young designers who helped us with the brand. We brought them in because they'd just been fired by a big design house, and they were very cheap. And they created the brand, helped us create the brand, the black and the blue and the logos. And we did all this on the cheap. We really didn't spend any money. And in October '98, we opened up the first new Caffè Nero in Soho, in Brewer Street, which is still there. And I can remember, incredibly proud, our first proper cafe bar, and it had Caffè Nero above the door, and there was a bit of branding in there, not a huge amount, but it was the start of the new brand, if you like. We realised the day before we opened it that we hadn't ordered the crockery. That's how we were doing things, but we got the crockery. We went out in that car and quickly bought enough crockery, and then gave a big party. And the thing we did, which was really different then, first of all, it looked different. I mean, people came in and they said, "Oh, this doesn't look like the Italian down the road." It really was different. And then we did something which, at the time, seemed quite odd and strange and brave, but worked incredibly well. We invited the entire neighbourhood to a party. I mean, we recognised even then that it was all about local. It's about getting the local people to visit their local coffee bar and creating that community. So we invited everyone, all the offices, for a good party in the evening, and we got in lots of cheap beer, and we had a fantastic party. We went along very late, I remember. But lo and behold, suddenly we had created a community gathering spot. And even to this day, people say to me, what is it about Caffè Nero? Why do people prefer Caffè Nero to Starbucks or to even Costa? And the real reason is because even today, as we've now opened 800, we still create that community. And when we open a Caffè Nero, even today, we go out and invite all the local people who work there, who live there, we give out lots and lots of free coffees. That philosophy is still really central to our strategy and has served us incredibly well. It wasn't easy, because I remember, on the second day of this coffee bar, watching people go past and going to other coffee bars or whatever, and we couldn't afford marketing. So what do? I ended up standing outside, just past Caffè Nero, with coffee cards, what we call VIP cards, trying to give these things out. First day, no one even took a free coffee card. I had a big Caffè Nero t-shirt. No one knew what Caffè Nero was. The brand completely unknown. The second day, I thought, I'm going to have to change my strategy here. So rather than just trying to give out a card, I would use the word free coffee. As soon as I said the word free, it was unbelievable. I mean, it was a lesson for life. People were grabbing the cards and turning around and going and getting their free coffee. I mean, that's what we had to do to get people in the early days of Caffè Nero. And the moment that worked, obviously, incredibly well, people went and got their free coffee. And then I'd go back the next day and just watch people, and the same people were going back and paying for their coffee. And it was at that point that I think I really started to believe in something that the Caffè Nero we'd created, because clearly they were willing to pay for this product as well. That was a really important sign for me, and that was, I think, the beginnings of you know, the real belief in building this sort of coffee culture. And so we did number 6 and 7 and 8. By the time we got to number 12, the brand was pretty well there. The brand you see today, you know, quite a lot of it was already there in terms of the logo and the colours and everything else. But of course, you know, the thing that always happens with every startup, and I'm sure a lot of you will understand, we ran out of money. And we ran out of money regularly, I think. And the problem with the retail business is that you run out of money every quarter, because that's when you have to pay your rent, which is a real pain. So there were a number of quarters in those early years where, you know, on the Friday I'd be ringing friends and family and saying, can you lend us 20,000 or whatever? You know, we've got to pay the rent on Monday. And that's how we survived. I mean, it was obviously incredibly tough. And at any time, you know, we might not have got that money together and the landlords would have foreclosed and we would have been out of business, I guess. But we somehow managed to sort of keep going and build up to 15, 20. I mean, the other problem at that time was that no one believed in coffee. You know, it seems incredible that you go, well, it's obvious. Everyone needs a coffee shop because you work there, you have interviews there, you do your deals there. You know, use coffee shops for everything now. But in those days, people, you know, my friends thought I was completely mad. They did, you know, say, well, you've left a really good job to go and run a coffee bar. They thought I was mad. My family thought I was mad. My parents, you know, couldn't believe what I'd done. So it took a lot of belief, you know, huge belief in putting up with this sort of constant you know, stream of people telling us that it just wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to work. But bit by bit, we as we saw the loyalty of our customers develop, same people coming back day after day, we believed in it, and we managed luckily to convince enough people to put more money back in every now and then, and to allow us to keep going until we got to about number 50, and we were tired of constant fundraising and sort of fighting that battle to see the cash flow going forward. And we decided, for better or worse, to float it on the London Stock Exchange. Going back to 2001, which was actually quite a difficult time to float any company. But we put a prospectus together. I brought it along today. That's our original Caffè Nero flotation. Now, if you had invested, if you'd have been crazy enough to invest in Caffè Nero at that time, you would have done very well. So in 2001, we floated it on the main London market. I remember, I think it was 50p a share. That was an incredible feeling, I have to say. Suddenly, yeah, when we started Caffè Nero, none of us had any money at all. Really didn't. And suddenly to be able to pick up the Financial Times and look at a share price and work out how much you're worth is a really odd feeling. Partly because you still don't have any money in your pocket, but on paper you can go, oh look, you know, that's great. And unfortunately, it didn't quite work out as we expected, because the share price initially, it went up a few pence. You know, great, happy morning, you know, having your scrambled eggs, and then it started to go down, and it went down and down and down, and that, you know, the dream, you could see it fading week by week by week, until I think, you know, it got down to about 22p, and we just didn't get it because the business was actually doing really well. You know, the underlying numbers were great, the customers loved us, the feedback we were getting was good, the return on capital on each cafe was fantastic. You know, really, really high return on capital. But of course, we had to keep investing in our head office and building the infrastructure. And the city didn't get it at all. It was a very, very difficult time. I can remember having meetings saying, what's the point? By that time, we put in many years of hard work, and the city just didn't care. It just, it was going down and down and down. I even said at one point to Jerry, I said, let's just sell it and go and do something else. But luckily, I was persuaded to just hang in there, and then there was a point at which it just turned around. I don't even know why it turned around, but it went down to 18p, and then suddenly started to come back and go back up. And again, then everyone was happy again, and the atmosphere and the mood in the office was completely different. But it was a really, really tough time. And I think our experience of having been a public company was pretty bad. I mean, I say to everyone now, if you're thinking of ever going public, come and talk to me, and I'll try and put you off. It didn't bother me too much, because I was running the business. I was doing all the food and the beverage and all the buying and distribution, so I was madly busy every day. But Jerry, his job was city relations and talking to the bankers. And he found it absolutely soul-destroying, having to go back every week and re-explain the business model to them, and tell them, why wasn't it, going like that? Sometimes it would go like, he would come back, I was crying, and say, they asked me the same questions as they asked last year, And ultimately, we got to 2007, by which time, the one thing we did, we raised 9 million when we took it public. And the 9 million, actually, when you raise 9 million, we ended up with just under 8 million, but we had enough then to build sufficient shops to become self-financing. And that was a really, really critical point, which, that's the point in which you don't need any more capital. We could just keep on building, a few shops every year, and we didn't need any more bank, we didn't need to borrow any more money. That was a great point in our history. And then we could just keep growing. And we did. We didn't raise any more equity after that. We raised debt finance, but it gets easier as you get bigger, of course. And we got it to 350 stores by 2007, which is a pretty good number. At which point Jerry said, I've had enough of being a public company, and we went out and bought and borrowed a couple of £100 million and bought it back. We actually bought it back, took it private. We were pretty well the last very highly leveraged buyout in 2007, because very soon after the markets tanked. You would never be able to do what we did today, but we got away with it, and we bought it back. It's now a private company again, and we run it as a family company. And that's where we are today. We continue to grow by about 40 shops in the UK every year. 40 to 50 stores every year, so we're now up to about 650 in this country. And we have about 150 stores overseas. We're now in 6 other countries, USA, Cyprus, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Poland, Turkey, Ireland. So we've expanded internationally, which has been a fantastic experience, and I was involved in quite a lot of that. And our plan is to continue to grow, about maybe 50 a year in the UK, at least 50 a year outside the UK, maybe bring in 2 or 3 more countries, and see where we get to over the next few years. But that's a kind of a bit of the history of Caffè Nero. In 2007, I stepped back from the day-to-day running of it, and I actually exited to a great extent in terms of my investment in the business, which meant 2 things. It gave me a lot of time to do other things, and it gave me a bit of money to do other things. So since then, I helped to found a social network called Street Life, which, if you read the Financial Times on Monday, you would have seen that we did something wonderful on Monday. We sold it to a very large American corporation. So I founded that about 5 years ago with a couple of other people. Took it to about 1.5 million users in this country. That's gone now. I've invested in a bunch of other companies, and I'm on board with a number of other companies. So I'm a sort of angel investor. I also mentor a lot of young entrepreneurs, try and help them grow their businesses. So I have this sort of great portfolio approach to life now. I'm never quite sure what I'm doing from day to day, but it's a lot of fun. That's
Amazing.
Sort of the story of Caffè Nero and a bit about me.
Amazing.
Any questions? A few quick questions.
Well, I wanted to add, because when you mentioned why people went to Caffè Nero instead of Costa Coffee or the others, you forgot the most important thing. You are the only one who really has black coffee. And all the Italian and Spanish people